So again, good morning and welcome. We're pleased to have all of you here today at the official opening of our newly expanded state-of-the-art manufacturing facility. The building behind us, behind me, is a result of the dedication and determination of hundreds of people and signals a significant turning point in our industry as we work towards bringing semiconductor manufacturing back to the United States. We are fortunate to have so many guests in the audience today. During the program, you'll hear from Mayor Tim Busse, Dr. Jeb Nadaner, close, from the Department of Defense, Commissioner Steve Grove from the state of Minnesota, U.S. Representative Dean Phillips, and Ian Steff from the Department of Commerce. I'm also very pleased to have Ramo Lee from Senator Amy Klobuchar's office here with us this morning, as well as Dr. Matt Kay from the Department of Navy. And John Neufer, President and CEO of the Semiconductor Industry Association. Welcome to all of you. We're so glad you're here. And finally, I'd like to say thank you to our board of directors, who are also here with us today. Their guidance and support during the early years of SkyWater's history has been instrumental. This facility is part of a long history of technology leadership in Minnesota, dating back to the 1960s, when a strong private-public partnership delivered emerging computing technology for the defense applications at that time and spawned the advanced computing industry. We are so pleased to be able to continue that legacy of innovation with our facility expansion. While this new facility was built to enhance our microelectronics capabilities for the Department of Defense and the strategic rad-hard market, it will also provide complementary technologies for the commercial applications in extreme environments such as space and medical imaging. The expansion enables us to add copper interconnect process technology for enhanced mixed signal device performance and interposer offerings for advanced packaging. The new copper interconnect capability is critical in supporting SkyWater's roadmap for extreme advanced node geometries beyond 90 nanometers and aligns well with the growing need for domestically sourced advanced packaging solutions. The speed at which the facility expansion has come together is truly impressive. Not only did we contend with the notorious Minnesota winter, we also had to work through this unprecedented pandemic. It is a true testament to everyone involved in the project, from the DoD to our employees here at SkyWater to our construction partner, McGough, that with the right team in place, you can accomplish great things. Well, I'd like to especially recognize Tom Honish from McGough Construction and Sam Marroquin from our SkyWater team, both of whom were instrumental to the success of this project that internally we call Ice Castle. Let's give those two gentlemen a round of applause. Fab expansions in the US are not a common sight these days. Over the past few decades, semiconductor manufacturing expertise has been developed and expanded into fabs outside the US. As a result, today, while most semiconductor innovation and product development still happens in the US, only 12% of the manufacturing is done domestically. Our fab expansion is unique and signals a shift that is exceptionally well timed in the industry. Recent global trade and supply chain dynamics have highlighted the need for domestic sourcing to improve security for commercial and national security interest. As the only US-owned pure-play foundry, SkyWater is uniquely positioned to lead the return of semiconductor manufacturing leadership to the US. This is an exciting time for SkyWater, and we couldn't be more thrilled to be with you all today as we celebrate this milestone. I want to spend a few minutes talking about private-public partnerships because they play a critical role in advancing U.S. capabilities. As I mentioned earlier, there is a disparity between the U.S. dominance in technology innovation and the lagging role of semiconductor manufacturing. We are all standing here today because of a very successful private-public partnership. Last fall, we announced a $170 million investment by the DoD to develop enhanced microelectronics for the department's unique needs. The DoD's investment was made on the Trusted and Assured Microelectronics Program, which seeks to collaborate with industry and laboratory partners to provide sustainable assured technology solutions for national security and defense. When done right, these partnerships represent a tremendous opportunity to help domestic manufacturing take a leap forward. This project is a prime example of how together the private and public sectors can accelerate time to market for new and innovative advanced manufacturing capabilities. And while we are so proud of the work we've done, it's important to recognize that our adversaries are funding vast amounts of money into their own tech sectors. They're investing heavily because they know the same expertise can secure a strategic position for their own countries. Continued investment in public-private partnerships is one powerful way for the U.S. to maintain the advantage we've gained in this space. This project has moved much faster than anyone expected. This building out there was nothing more than a hole in the ground last October, and within a week it will be turned over to manufacturing. The speed of this project is a testament to the DoD's commitment and our commitment to securing our domestic supply chain. I mentioned earlier that the timing of this fab expansion is remarkably timed with the dynamics going on in the industry today. The electronics industry is showing a trend of increasing semiconductor content that reflects the demand for products that are smarter, faster, safer, and more convenient. To meet these demands, the industry is currently readying for what we call the next wave of computing, where artificial intelligence, the Internet of Things, edge computing, and electrical vehicles will become the mainstay. Now is the time for public-private partnerships to build advanced manufacturing technologies to make sure that the infrastructure needed to support the next wave of computing is developed domestically. The technologies we'll be working on in our fab are the technologies of the future, true innovation that will have a long-lasting impact on this industry, and we are just getting started. I would like to close today by reiterating that this is an incredibly exciting time for SkyWater and for the semiconductor industry as a whole. The U.S. must accelerate the pace of innovation and emerging disruptive technologies by leveraging private-public partnerships to quickly translate in-state system requirements into a predictable value chain. And we are well on our way to accomplishing just that. It is because of the vision and leadership of our partners in the Department of Defense that SkyWater and our investors are able to do our part to drive American innovation and grow the domestic high-tech sector. Thank you so much for being here to celebrate this occasion with us. We truly appreciate your support and partnership, and we're excited for what's to come.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome. Welcome to the city of Bloomington. To those of you who are visitors, very glad to see you here in Bloomington. You're here and you're welcome at any time to return to Bloomington and join us here. To those who are here routinely, who either live here, work here, or who are guests here on a routine basis, it's very good to see you again. It's good to see our guests. Welcome to Congressman Phillips, Commissioner Grove, our friends here from Washington. Again, you're welcome anytime. Please do join us here in Bloomington. We're always glad to have you here. Thanks so very much for asking me to be part of today's celebration. I really do appreciate it. I have to admit I was scrambling just a bit this morning to revise some of my remarks. I was working last night, putting the finishing touches on things while I was watching the Vikings game, and when I opened up my laptop this morning and reread what I had written when the Vikings were busy being the Vikings, I realized it probably wouldn't work. Some of the words may have been inappropriate, so I apologize if I seem a bit unprepared because we did make some final or last-minute changes to all of this. On behalf of the city of Bloomington, I want to offer my congratulations to Tom, to the board of directors, and to all of our friends, all of the folks at SkyWater Technology on the completion of your new clean room. This is absolutely fantastic. Hats off on completing the work ahead of schedule and on the start of the installation and testing of equipment. I'm sure that you're more than ready to check off a few boxes and get through the punch list and get busy, or I should say busier, with the work that you have to do. I know it's an exciting time for everyone, and I just want to say well done. Congratulations on that. So while the hospitality industry here in Bloomington gets most of the headlines, we are also very fortunate to be the home of some very exceptional companies like SkyWater Technologies. SkyWater obviously has a significant local impact with the jobs that it provides and the strength that it adds and provides to the Bloomington business community. But this expansion that we're celebrating this morning really shows that SkyWater's impact is well beyond the local footprint that we see. Tom, we're proud that your vision, the vision of the board of directors, the hard work of your employees, you've expanded your influence, and not just locally, nationally, and internationally, but literally, quite literally, to the heavens. And we're very proud of that, so congratulations. So at the risk of being Captain Obvious here, I want to say the last 7 months have been a bit of a challenge. I keep asking our city manager, when does the fun part about being mayor start? And beyond the emergency declarations and the curfews and the dire budget discussions we've been having, over the past 7 months, there have been some discussions that have driven home some important points that we need to consider here in the city of Bloomington. The first and the most obvious is the absolute need to expand and to diversify the Bloomington business community. Bloomington is known around the world for our hospitality and our shopping. There's no doubt in my mind that that is not going to change, that at the end of this pandemic, we are going to be back to where we were before. But the pandemic has made it crystal clear the need to extend the breadth and the depth of our business community, and not only here in Bloomington, but across the state of Minnesota. And this expansion by SkyWater is a perfect example of what we need to focus on accomplishing. And second, we might not say it often enough, but I want to assure you that we are deeply appreciative and never once take for granted the outstanding companies that we have in our community. Companies like SkyWater, like Donaldson, Toro, Thermo King, Polar, Health Partners, 555, so many others. We wouldn't be Bloomington without you. We really wouldn't. We are very, very grateful that you're part of our community and such an important part of our community. So again, congratulations to everyone at SkyWater. I'm excited to see where the future leads this great community and this great business here in Bloomington. Thank you all very much.
I want to join all of these distinguished people in thanking all who made this day possible. First of all, the SkyWater leadership led by Tom Sonderman, and then my colleagues from the Commerce Department, Assistant Secretary Steff, and then my colleagues from the Defense Department, Michael Kratsios, Ellen Lord, who made the funding possible for this expansion of this facility. And then I want to thank the members of Congress, Dean Phillips right here. Thank you so much for joining us today, and Mayor Busse and Commissioner Groves. This really takes a federal, state, and local effort. Everyone has been essential to making this project a success. And I want to say that the fact that we have so many people here today speaks about the value of this kind of interagency and national approach, putting all the tools together of national power to address the core challenges to America's prosperity and defense. Now, speaking as the Pentagon representative on this stage, most would assume that my role is to shift the focus from trade and economics over to national security. But when it comes to our defense industrial base, microelectronics in particular, that is a distinction without a difference. My office works on the strength and the viability of America's defense industrial base, the companies, the skilled workers, the labs, the factories that produce the weapons and the equipment used by the U.S. military and the national security agencies. We like to think of ourselves as a help desk to industry in dealing with the Pentagon. So I thought it would be instructive today to share with you a wider context of what has brought us to this point and how far we still have to go to ensure that America has access to the tech hardware needed to defend our country and to have the jobs in each and every one of our communities. For several decades after World War II, it was pretty straightforward of what the industrial base consisted of. It consisted of large companies, big names, just a few of them are still around today, and they produced the hardware, the suppliers and the R&D centers that supported them. Now, microelectronics played an essential role in this industrial base. In fact, the defense and aerospace sectors were the major funders and the major consumers of early transistors and semiconductors. But after the Berlin Wall came down, the size of that specialized, highly regulated military industrial base significantly shrank. At the same time, commercial microelectronics exploded with the advent of the internet, personal computing, digital communications, artificial intelligence, and much more. First in the US and then globally. And globally, of course, in the People's Republic of China. Production of most semiconductors and virtually all electronic packaging migrated overseas. Today, an astonishingly large percentage of microelectronics manufacturing, over 85%, and nearly all microelectronics packaging and testing capability resides in Asia. Now, microelectronics has always been a key defense capability, but it is now more crucial than ever as information technology transforms modern warfare and every last bit of infrastructure in the United States. We are entering an era of military competition in which many of the most important warfighting technologies are commercial in origin. Yet even within the U.S., the defense requirements are only 1 to 2% of the total demand for microelectronics. And that limits the DoD's influence with regard to its national security imperatives with regard to market forces. Now, to be sure, across the massive pool of commercial talent and innovation, we see this as a huge advantage to our military. But it also creates new security challenges, given the U.S. tech sector's reliance on foreign suppliers and customers that have close ties to China. Under the civil-military fusion approach pursued by the Chinese Communist Party, the boundaries that we Americans are accustomed to between the commercial and the academic, the government and defense sectors, most of those barriers do not exist in China, unlike here. Now, we as Americans must be assured that the chips running our weapons and our equipment used by American troops and in our infrastructure for all our citizens operate as intended when they are needed most, and that they're not exfiltrating the sensitive and private and personal data to people that do not wish us well. Now, President Trump came to office recognizing that some manufacturing was simply too important to leave to the invisible hand of global supply chains and the short-term view of shareholder value. The administration initiated a series of government actions designed to remedy those vulnerabilities, including growing a part of the defense industrial base producing technology, hardware, and software. The Defense Department has been working on a comprehensive strategy to ensure that our military systems and our critical infrastructure have access to secure and reliable microelectronics. Now, I must say that past efforts, decades old, to create what we call trusted foundries, credentialed and cleared suppliers doing exclusive business for the military, they have simply proven to be too costly for both the government and business. So since 2017, we've pursued a different approach. Public-private partnerships that allow the government and industry to co-invest in a domestic microelectronics capability that neither one could otherwise afford to fund independently. The SkyWater expansion that we see today is a flagship of this department's and this nation's microelectronics strategy, one that we hope to see replicated in fabs across the country. DoD's investment allows SkyWater to expand its radiation-hardened processes and expand new offerings to aerospace and defense customers. Just as importantly, this expansion also supports commercial applications in space, medical imaging, and civil infrastructure. The investment in high-volume, state-of-the-art microelectronics makes it possible to sustain production of lower volume parts for DoD systems, systems that may be comparatively old, but are still critical to U.S. warfighting capabilities. And you just have to ask any B-52 pilot about that. So the commercial and the defense sides of the American house, so to speak, complement and strengthen one another. I would close by noting that for all the talk about political polarization in America, it is heartening to see the bipartisan consensus that is forming around this set of issues. The COVID crisis dispensed any remaining doubts about the importance of having assured domestic suppliers of critical materials and equipment in our own country. The kind of public-private partnership like the one we are celebrating today can allow for the growth and eventual flourishing of a domestic microelectronics industry. As Americans, united for our common prosperity and our common defense, we can still do more, a lot more, to return production of microelectronics along with other high-value items back to America. We're not talking here just about PhDs and programmers. It's about skilled middle-class manufacturing jobs, which, as SkyWater employees will tell you, make for fulfilling good careers and support stable families and good communities. By one estimate, the United States is responsible for over 50% of all the intellectual property associated in the microelectronics industry, 50% around the world. But we account for only around 12-13% of that manufacturing capability. Now, Americans are proud of our nation's inventiveness, our innovation. But now it's time to ensure that more of the things invented in our country are also made in our country. None more so than the technologies that enable our military to deter aggression and protect our interests abroad. Thank you.
Morning, everybody. Boy, it's good to be here to celebrate some good news, isn't it? It has been a challenging time. Tom, congratulations. This is an amazing announcement. I haven't seen the facility yet, but I've read that it's as big as a football field and as clean as an operating room. So you're doing something right here. And as you mentioned, it's fitting to be here on the site of what was really the first big tech boom in Minnesota, where Control Data Systems and so many other technologists built that first supercomputer industry that brought talent from all over the country to Minnesota, because this is where it was at. That boom back in the 50s and 60s led to a huge expansion of our technology ecosystem here, ultimately resulted in a medical manufacturing industry that rivals all of them across the country, across the world, really. And so to see SkyWater take this next step to expand here and build so many more good-paying jobs for Minnesotans and be on the cutting edge of this field is just really exciting. I want to thank Deputy Secretary Nadaner and Assistant Secretary Steff for being here this morning, and of course to Mayor Busse and Representative Phillips. Thank you for everything you do to make this district and this city one of the economic engines, really, of our state. This is an exciting time, and you know, we look at what SkyWater is doing, and it's just really exciting. The way that you are partnered with the Department of Defense, the way that this is a really lockstep partnership there. These radiation-resistant microchips are going to be a huge innovation for your business, and we're just proud to be a part of it here in the state. You know, we've got a big road ahead of us. This has been a very challenging time for Minnesota's economy and for the global economy. We have almost reached 1 million Minnesotans who have applied for unemployment insurance since this crisis began. And it is not too early to start thinking about what recession recovery looks like and what are some of the themes that we as a state need to focus on. Of course, the federal government plays a huge role in helping the country come back from a recession, but there are winners and losers in recessions. There are states who advance and others who don't. And as we think about the things we want to focus on in Minnesota, two themes really come to mind that I think are relevant to SkyWater's expansion today. One is just reskilling Minnesota, reskilling our state. So many people have been laid off from their jobs. And while, yes, those jobs will come back to some degree, those jobs never come back at the same way that they left. And so we're going to have a huge amount of workers in our state, currently 230,000 every week who are unemployed and claiming those benefits, are going to need to find a new pathway, a new career pathway. And we need to find ways to reskill them quickly, efficiently, and get them back into the market in these sectors that are growing. Manufacturing is one of those sectors. As you know, jobs in manufacturing pay 16% higher than the average wage in our state. They're growing very quickly. We're hearing manufacturers still having trouble hiring, and despite the fact there's a lot of folks who are unemployed. So our message right now is get out there and look at this field where you can make a real difference and contribute to our economy. And then I think the second big theme is just we've got to be building the kind of companies and opportunities that represent the next chapter of the Minnesota economy. And Minnesota is the kind of state that when someone sets down to begin a company, to start something, they stick to it. We are 5th highest in the nation in business for survivability for 5 years and beyond. So this is the kind of state where people do stick to the companies they start. We just don't start enough companies. We're 48th in the country in terms of the number of new companies begun. And so in recessions, job creation and growth are so critical. There's fierce competition for it. You've got to start the right kind of companies and expand the right kind of companies. And SkyWater is doing just that, with high-tech manufacturing being a huge source of growth in our nation's economy and, of course, here in Minnesota. This is critical. Manufacturing here in our state is $52 billion of our economy, second only to healthcare as a state economic sector. So this is a really important expansion for our recovery from this pandemic, but also really to the future of our economy in the state. You know, we like to think that Minnesotans are the problem solvers of the global economy. And when you think about recessions being these inflection points, right, where new companies begin, where people try new things, where companies expand and take advantage of disruptions. In the last recession, you saw companies like WhatsApp and Uber and Instagram start. What's this recession going to bring us in terms of growth? We think it's going to be in manufacturing and technology. We think it's going to be companies that are solving very real problems that this pandemic has really laid bare. And so to be at an event like this and at a moment for SkyWater, this extraordinary growth is just very exciting for the state. The governor is thrilled to see this expansion taking place. And we're just thrilled the Department of Defense is partnering with a Minnesota company to make this expansion and are excited for what's next. Thanks, everybody.
Good morning, everybody. Many of you know me to be a hopeless optimist, and I got to tell you, today is one of the great doses of sunlight that our community has needed for the last number of months, and I'm grateful to you, Tom, to all of our esteemed speakers, and to all of you. You know, I have spent most of my career in business, the very high-tech fields of vodka, ice cream, and coffee. Perhaps we fuel the semiconductor enterprise. And now the best news for me personally is that when people ask about the district that I represent, Minnesota's 3rd, I get to say I represent the Mall of America and Paisley Park and SkyWater Technology. So thank you for that opportunity as well. I am very proud and honored to be with all of you today. And today is a great example of what my personal mission in Congress is all about. Twofold: to return cooperation to a place that so desperately needs it, and to bring manufacturing back to our country, and to inspire entrepreneurs and ensure capital provision is ample to support the very jobs and economy that Minnesota so desperately needs after this pandemic. So starting with cooperation, you know, some of you might know, but the day you arrive in Washington as a new member of Congress, you are systematically separated. Democrats on one bus, Republicans on another bus. You know, the sharing of knowledge, the affording of time to build relationships, those are challenges to the power structures in Washington. So they're frowned upon by leaders in both parties. That is why my personal mission is to do just the opposite. Inspire cooperation. I'm a member of the Problem Solvers Caucus, 25 Democrats, 25 Republicans, trying to get people together, build respect, and build trust. And that's indeed what got us here today. Public-private cooperation, people setting aside other agendas to do what's right on behalf of both a community and a country. And that indeed is what I'm going to try to do in Congress. And as for Made in America, you know, I don't understand much of what's in this pamphlet, but I do understand the flag on the back. And the pandemic, COVID, has laid bare in very stark terms the risks that we take on by having outsourced so much of our manufacturing overseas. We have to return these supply chains to the United States. I share the administration's interest in doing so, level setting our relationships with our trading partners, but to return thoughtful, collaborative government to our country, a country that needs it desperately right now, to provide thoughtful incentives. I'm not a big fan of mandates, but we can and should and must return thoughtful incentives to those who are willing to risk capital, create extraordinary innovations, and return jobs to our country. That, again, is my personal mandate. So with that, I want to thank all of you. You know, these are tough times, but we are Americans. And if we're just willing to set aside our lapel pins, our politics, and return to the very, very thoughtful collaboration that has made this community so remarkable. I am a son of it and a beneficiary of it. And I ask and invite every single one of you here today and in our whole country to start doing so together. Because the truth is, our greatest risks are no longer those perhaps posed by overseas adversaries, rather the divisions in our very own country. So that is why I'm so thrilled to be here today to celebrate exactly what I love about SkyWater, what I love about this new facility, and what I love about Minnesota. So Godspeed, everybody. Keep the faith. And remember that optimism is just as contagious as fear. Thanks, everybody.
Well, thank you for that kind introduction, and thank you, Tom, for inviting me to participate in this landmark event today here in Bloomington. Members of Congress, Congressman Phillips, thank you for being here. Commissioner, State of Minnesota representatives, and local leadership represented here today, thank you for your partnership and commitment to making sure today became a reality. I am also pleased to be here on behalf of U.S. Secretary of Commerce Wilbur Ross and the Trump administration during Manufacturing Month. There'd be no better place to be than right here in Bloomington as we celebrate the expansion of this semiconductor facility. I'm also pleased to be here alongside my Department of Defense colleague, Dr. Jeb Nadaner. Jeb, thank you for being here and for our continued partnership. Our two departments, the Department of Commerce and the Department of Defense, cooperate on a daily basis and coordinate strategies to ensure that additional manufacturing capacity and R&D initiatives become the reality that we see here today. Jeb, your visionary leadership is well known, and we certainly look forward to continue to work with you to advance this collective mission. I'm also pleased to see Dr. Matt Kay, as well as John Neufer, the President and CEO of the Semiconductor Industry Association. It's very good to see industry, government, and academia coming together to make events like today possible. As you may know, the semiconductor industry is near and dear to my heart after having spent a decade in this industry. All of us here today must choose to compete to maintain American leadership in this industry, an industry critical to U.S. economic and national security, as well as economic development and societal welfare. Ladies and gentlemen, we have and we will choose to compete. There is no alternative. Why? The enabling technologies and applications that the semiconductor industry develops and manufactures are unparalleled. These cutting-edge technologies will define technological advancement in the 21st century. This morning's tour of the new fabrication facility, which I was very impressed by, is proof that large-scale and advanced manufacturing continues to be possible in the United States of America. We are a nation that manufactures, and our future will be defined by what we make here in this facility. This 600,000 square foot expansion to produce cutting-edge 90 nanometer rad-hard electronics is proof that the Trump administration's bold and unprecedented actions to date have had great effects on this industry. The President's administration continues to deliver on ensuring the United States remains internationally competitive, creating jobs and encouraging the development of high-tech innovation in this sector. On behalf of the U.S. Department of Commerce, we are delighted to see SkyWater Technology continue to expand semiconductor manufacturing capacity and support hundreds of high-tech jobs in the state of Minnesota, an expansion buttressed by the administration's successful tax cuts and deregulatory efforts, and coupled with the strong commitment to America's workforce and R&D investment. We are pleased with the bipartisan and collaborative efforts on the local, state, and congressional front to prioritize R&D and related programs to further enhance the domestic semiconductor ecosystem. This administration continues to remain committed to investing in the future of this industry at the nexus of workforce initiatives and R&D to captivate the next generation of leaders to ensure critical and leading-edge microelectronics are developed and remain in the United States. Our domestic capabilities up and down the semiconductor supply chain must increase throughout that supply chain, and it will increase. This continues to be enabled by industry-driven approaches with government partnership to improve the investment climate is demonstrated here today. Continuing to maintain and further enhance our investment climate, as well as addressing outdated and unfair foreign trade practices, will guarantee the United States is the most attractive destination for semiconductor R&D and manufacturing expansions. It has been unfortunate to see the mass subsidization and unfair trade practices by foreign actors that led to the erosion of our domestic semiconductor manufacturing base in the U.S. over the last 2 decades. Past administrations let foreign governments take advantage of American ingenuity and innovation through weak trade and investment policy. The COVID crisis, as others alluded to, shine light on the shortfalls in our domestic manufacturing capabilities as we experienced supply chain disruptions coupled with over 80 foreign export restrictions that emerged across the board in the early days of the pandemic. Now, more than ever, is the time to address these supply chain vulnerabilities. Ladies and gentlemen, this is where strong trade and investment policy and national security meet, and coordination becomes essential. The priorities of the Department of Commerce and Department of Defense not only complement but strengthen each other as we continue to see game-changing announcements, manufacturing announcements like the one here today, happen all over our country that will propel our domestic semiconductor capabilities forward. In my capacity as Assistant Secretary of Commerce for Global Markets and Director General of the U.S. and Foreign Commercial Service, I have the privilege of leading a team of more than 1,400 trade and investment professionals in 100 locations around the world and over 110 locations here in the U.S., focused on working for American industry with 4 pillar objectives. Number 1, providing trade and export promotion services for U.S. companies, lead on commercial diplomacy to address and remove barriers to trade. 3, advocating for U.S. companies bidding on foreign government tenders. And lastly, attracting inbound and the retention of domestic investment in the United States through the Select USA program. Ladies and gentlemen, over the last 3.5 years that I've had the privilege of working with this team, I have come to find that this team is indeed a team that works, a team that chooses to compete on behalf of companies like SkyWater on a daily basis, and a team that delivers, a team that delivered over $100 billion measurable impact just last year alone. The Department of Commerce has largely housed our semiconductor work in our industry and analysis and global markets business units and in our Select USA office, where we utilize our interagency contacts and partners at local and state economic development organizations like the one that the Commissioner leads to ensure we understand and inform on what industry indicates are the right priorities to improve the investment environment and streamline the regulatory environment. Today's ribbon cutting is a testament to the importance of developing a level playing field in this industry. I know how important economic development is to communities like Bloomington. I am proud to know that our tremendous and growing domestic microelectronics demand here in this country will increasingly be met by Made in America chips right here in Minnesota. You should be proud too. We look forward to continuing our long and fruitful partnership with SkyWater Technology in the state of Minnesota and wish you prosperity and growth in this business, a venture that will undoubtedly lead to more high-quality jobs and further investment. SkyWater's commitment is well known to this community and the high-paying jobs and skill capacity programs that they've invested in. Your pledge to America's workers that you've signed, you're an early signer of that, is testament to that, as well as your workforce that I learned that you employ 20% of the workforce are veterans here. Can we get a big round of applause for SkyWater and their commitment to jobs and veterans? Thanks, Tom. SkyWater Technology's groundbreaking today in Bloomington is further evidence that the administration's successful efforts to retain, attract, and grow U.S. microelectronics research and development, design, and production capabilities, which is critical to economic growth, will contribute to ensuring the nation has secure, vibrant, and an internationally competitive high-tech ecosystem. For those of you who have been in this industry for some time, we've seen many challenges in this industry. In the 1980s, Japan attempted to capture this industry's leadership through unfair trade means, while also investing heavily in technology and research. We responded then, and we will lead now, by outrunning and out-innovating the competition on our terms and based on American ingenuity. While the players and landscape have changed, our determination and quest to maintain and grow our leadership in this critical industry has not. For those that say it cannot be done, I say this. 10 years after the last launch of astronauts from U.S. soil, a SpaceX capsule docked at the International Space Station, having carried 2 astronauts hundreds of miles enabled by semiconductor technology developed here in the United States. We went to the moon using chips made in America and will go to the Mars the same way. Success in semiconductors is measured in nanometers and packing more and more on a chip the size of our fingernails as opposed to miles. But the Trump administration is committed to the same inspiring result for this industry. We will once again restore America's rightful place in a technology that was invented here and bring back the thousands of good jobs that will come with it. Thank you again, SkyWater Technology, and congratulations on this momentous day. It has been a pleasure celebrating with you this morning. Congratulations.